Hello, I'm Jordan Midler and welcome to Restart 2017, a show all about things that have happened in the world of video games in 2017. Things like this. In the real world, 2017 has been doing its level best to top the charts of the worst years in living memory. A constant barrage of depressing, anxiety-producing, nerve-shattering stories from Trump, Brexit, North Korea, white supremacists, Grenfell, Manchester, Egypt. All over the world, people have wondered if there's any point in not just digging a hole in the ground and wobbling the rest of their lives away. Just as well then, that in the world of games 2017 has been incredible. We've seen Nintendo returning to the peak of its powers, an endless list of excellent titles not seen in a decade, and an ever-expanding industry with more games for more types of people. Where one mysterious player can stand toe-to-toe with some of gaming's genuine icons. We've also seen some awful behaviour from some of the industry's biggest voices, and a corral of shady business practice that threatens to tear the industry to pieces. So maybe not amazing, but bloody interesting, and it started in January. Okay, it's a new year, new games will be out soon, wherever the NX is will be out in a couple of months and everything's going to be better. Maybe they'll do a Skate 4, maybe they'll bring back Mars Delights, maybe they'll put another game out on the Xbox One.
Scalebound, a project that has been in development at Platinum Games for a long time now in partnership with Microsoft, is no more.
Spoke too soon. Scalebound was set to be a glitzy, headphone-wearing twat-em-up from Platinum, makers of hentai you can discuss at the dinner table and the only enjoyable Metal Gear game. This started a year in which Xbox fans have rightly called into question the absolute dearth of exclusives on their platform. While still at the tail end of a course correction visible from space, Microsoft and by extension Cool Dad that would let you have a beer at a Christmas party Phil Spencer have failed to deliver the goods in the same volume that was found on the 360. Compiling this is a 3-year-old narrative about the Xbox One's lack of power compared to its wildly successful rival the PS4, a narrative that I've sort of fed into with one of the first jokes in this bit, but I bought an Xbox One and an Xbox One X, so what's the lesson here? I should be better with my money. Sure, the Xbox One doesn't have a ton of games, and this certainly didn't help, but from most of the footage of Scalebound before release, it hardly seemed like Xbox was getting its Bloodborne. And look on the bright side, you can play the best version of Skate 3 on an Xbox One X, and that's pretty cool. Maybe not $500 cool. Skate 2 is $500 cool. That's probably the last mention EA will get all year. New year meant new games, and January saw the return to form of birther movement and pants-shitting simulator Resident Evil with the imaginatively titled Resident Evil 7. You can also play the entire game in PSVR, creating an immersive experience where you trudge through hell to this goal that ultimately is probably not worth it. Then you put the game in and play Resident Evil 7 in VR. Yakuza 0 also made its way onto PS4, which, full disclosure, I mainly bought because I thought this was the one with Kazuchika Okada in it, a mistake I would make twice this year. But on the bright side, it turned out to be one of the best action games I've played in years, and even a dark horse for Game of the Year, if it wasn't for literally 20 other games. February was very much the second month, and it came with the startling news that E3, the once industry only, but not really, mecca of gaming and consumerism was going to throw its doors open to the public. The news was met with much excitement from fans and a fair amount of snark from the press, which is fair enough, it is actually their job to cover the show, and thousands of people with fuck all to do was hardly going to make it any better. Another key point was expectation. When people think about E3, they think about the big press conferences, and many assumed that a ticket to the show would get you into those glorified YouTube playlists. But that wasn't the case, and what they were actually going to do at the show was still up in the air. But hey, the way the world's going, it's probably bold buying tickets for something that's 3 months in advance anyway, so good on them. February also saw retired General Zod cosplayer and tattoo enthusiast Peter Moore leave EA to become the CEO of Liverpool Football Club. This brought to a close a chapter in the career of one of the industry's most famous suits. Having killed the Dreamcast at Sega and had a stint getting embarrassing publicity stunts henna done to his arm, Moore's most tenured time was spent at EA Sports, overseeing the era that first brought us robust online gaming and sports games, more authenticity and licensing than ever, and the dawn of a new era of buying virtual cards with real money that won't mean anything in 9 months. That's probably the only mention EA will get all year. Now that Moore's away, the Panini sticker album of memorable faces in the games industry is looking pretty out of date. Andy House, Jack Trenton, and people like Kaz Hirai and Gabe Newell, while still at their respective companies, have taken a back seat in favour of hanging bodies and, well, nothing really. February also saw the launch of the exciting Horizon Zero Dawn, a game whose design document might have literally been what if a T-Rex but a robot and nothing else. And Nioh, a challenging, rewarding, Dark Soulsian romp through feudal Japan rendered on a PSP. In March, Nintendo launched their new rectangle, the Nintendo Switch, a tablet cum console that is so advanced it can even teach you how to wank. Stockholm Syndrome sufferers everywhere braced themselves to defend the Big N's latest gizmo with all the breathlessness of the airbrush from history Wii U. The launch lineup was pretty pish, but even for most systems, one decent game is probably better than most debut offerings. This was slightly better than that though. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an open world adventure title that seems to revel in going through every major trope of the open world games of the last generation and doing them better. A simple yet evocative visual style, sweeping music, memorable characters coupled with fantastic, if occasionally frustrating gameplay, gave the Switch its first amazing game, and 2017 its first real Game of the Year contender. The Switch even came bundled with two built-in controllers, the confusingly titled Joy-Con grips. It's a novel inclusion, but the buttons are so small that if you wanted to use them for anything really, you'd need the fine motor skills of a surgeon, or the hands of Donald Trump. However, it wasn't all perfect in the land of the Switch. Many launch systems encountered problems with the Joy-Con controllers, which would result in moments of when Link decided it would be more germane for him to leap to his death or get intimate with a wall. Being Nintendo, they also thought it was wise to bring back friend codes, the much mocked attempt at an online infrastructure. Let's have a game of Splatoon tonight? Sure, what's your friend code? I don't know, what's yours? I don't know either. Well, it was nice knowing you. Probably should stick this in the bin. Nintendo's never going to trust the internet, and honestly, can you blame them? Have you seen some of the stuff on there? Plus, it comes from space, and that's practically Martian. Speaking of space, Mass Effect Andromeda burst onto the scenes. Many fans, including myself, waited with bated breath to witness the newest chapter in the space opera. But weirdly, instead of shipping a Mass Effect game, Andromeda seemed to be an exploration into the depths of the uncanny valley, with facial animations that wouldn't look out of place in an animated film from the early 1700s. Not only that, but the game was so full of bugs and horrific glitches that it soon got out of hand, and the once lauded franchise came crashing to the ground in a pissing contest to see who could produce the most fucked up glitch compilation. No, it's fine mate, let her in, she's only had a couple, she's working in the morning anyway. Even though a lot of people didn't like Mass Effect 3, at least people wanted to finish it. Not play a game in which every character looks like they are solely responsible for holding up the scenery. That's probably the only time EA will get mentioned this year. Memes! And in a story so stupid that if it was the first thing an alien read about the planet, you'd forgive it for blowing it up. Oculus WizKid in Harry Potter when he drinks the Polyjuice Potion replica Parmalucky was let go from Oculus for funding anti-Hillary Clinton memes. Unfortunately, as the cancer that is politics in the last few years spreads throughout, the world of gaming didn't go unscathed. When something like Gamergate is allowed to balloon like the tumour it was and grow into the cancer of the alt-right, it's not surprising that people in positions of power in the industry hold abhorrent views, or in this case providing a chilling metaphor for VR by pointlessly throwing money at something the world will move on from in a year. Speaking of, YouTube funny and unfunny man John Jafari, aka JonTron, got in some hot water after some racist remarks during an online debate. Many excused John, saying he was flustered and unprepared for political debate, and I can relate. Once in an exam I hadn't studied for, I just started throwing out the Nazi salute. I mean, I couldn't help it. This caused him to be removed from the game Yooka-Laylee, a game which he had helped publicised and provided a voice. It's bloody typical. He said something awful on a livestream and Playtonic rewarded him by removing him from that terrible game. Now, plenty of people this year have been exposed for their less than rational opinions, but this one specifically really stung. You may have noticed that a lot of this video and a lot of my videos are very inspired by JonTron among others. I love these videos, and it's just really disappointing when someone that you like that much spews such hate, especially when it seems so antithetical to the joy that he's brought you. He later walked some of the comments back, but it's difficult to even enjoy some of those old videos. Oh well, as long as no other figureheads in the gaming community turn out to be racist arseholes, we'll be alright. Speaking of Yooka-Laylee, Playtonic helpfully illustrated exactly why we left those types of games in the past with their meandering, broken, orally assaulting slog through the depths of the late 90s. Ugh, listen to these characters talk, they're awful. If there was an adult in an old Charlie Brown cartoon that they were trying to subtly imply was a pedo, that's what it would sound like. In contrast, Atlus unleashed a stylish, endless, and vaguely questionable Persona 5. It's good, but it's hardly realistic. Joker splits his time between being a stylish teenager and fighting off an impending autocrat and massive cock monsters. I spent my time in high school trying to get girls to talk to me and avoid being headbutted, almost successfully, I might add. So who's the real hero here? As the scholars foretold, after April, it's gonna be May.
Square Enix has declared its decision to withdraw from Danish developer IO Interactive.
Murder enthusiasts across the world rejoiced as Square Enix sold off IO Interactive, makers of the best game of 2016, Hitman. Initially, fans expected IO to lose their bald mascot and have to contend with their new hot release, Mr. Murder, but in a move that can only be described as shockingly decent for this industry, Square allowed IO to buy back their stoic frontman outright, meaning that a new Hitman game is assured. Look at that, a nice wee story. Thinking about it, that might have been the best thing that happened all year. The game company was even slightly human and it was the best thing that happened all year. Jesus Christ. Releases in May included the Loot Happy Fighter and better use of the DC license than Zack Snyder could ever dream of in Justice 2. The actual plot isn't fantastic, considering the DC bar is fighting over Guillermo's name is practically Shakespeare. And after an almost decade-long joke, the sequel to Prey was released, imaginatively titled Prey. At times, Prey feels like a gritty reboot of the Flubber franchise, unless of course you're playing the PC version, in which case it's more like Groundhog's Day in space. It's June, and E3 kicked off in traditional style with the annual press conferences. This year's highlights included Microsoft showing off their mid-cycle crisis and stretching the term exclusive to the point of meaninglessness, Bethesda pressed play on a YouTube playlist. Sadly absent from Bethesda was the woman from the last E3 who managed to reach full climax at the sheer mention of the Elder Scrolls Online.
Tamriel with no level restrictions.
Show Skyrim VR and you should have broken the sound barrier. And imagine if they'd showed off Elder Scrolls 6, we could have polished the floor. Ubisoft enlisted the help of gaming's Walt Disney to stave off a hostile takeover. Things get so tense that even reduced this man to tears. Because Prey had released earlier in the year, Ubisoft took it upon themselves to continue the law that there must be at least one game that will never come out in development at a time, with the announcement of Beyond Good and Evil 2, this coming cunningly 10 years after the original announcement of Beyond Good and Evil 2. Expect BG&E 2 to launch around the same time as StarCraft Ghost, Deep Down, Star Wars 1313 and Rockstar's The Agent. EA's conference was so powerfully dull it left this haircut without the ability to speak.
What up, guys? Thank you for having me, EA. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Jesse Wellens, and I am a YouTube creator. So I am here to talk about Need for Speed Payback. If you guys didn't know, Need for Speed Payback, yeah, it's a great game. But all right, all set aside.
Sony basically took the piss between announcing Knack 2 and showing some trailers for games we already knew about. The satirical feel of the whole thing was capped off by the announcement of Bravo Team, which looks more like the kind of thing you'd see kids playing a bad TV show like this, holding a controller like they've never physically held an object before. Nintendo announced a mainline Pokemon game for a home console. Come on lads, it's Christmas Day in 3D. It probably won't launch for 40 years and they've been hurt before, but come on lads, for the time being, it's Pokemon to fuck. They also announced some Spaceball looks, but who cares about that Pokemon? Who cares about the games? What about the gamers? Well, the first public E3 was getting off to a swell start with people having to be let in early due to safety concerns. Of course I wasn't there because I was yet to be part of the liberal games media elite, but thankfully my good pal, Kylo Ren's stunt double and Zelda apologist, Hamish Black, aka Writing on Games, was there, and we crossed to him live for this special report. It's not live, he filmed it 6 months ago.
E3 has always been about the experience over all else for me. The idea of going to the conference in this transition year to end all transition years excited me far more than the prospect of just playing unreleased games. Me being the masochist that I am, I was super into experiencing that chaos firsthand. Little did I know, however, that what would greet us would be something this bad. A convention entirely unequipped to deal with the extra bodies being dumped on it, an ESA entirely ignorant to the real problems that was causing, all culminating in a show that had me and many others asking the question, how could this possibly be a worthwhile experience for a paying public? I'm willing to bet that if a member of the public got their hands on 4 games in a day, they were lucky. Then there were the cavalcade of signs informing people that the queues were full. Imagine paying $250 to get into the convention and being told you didn't even have the privilege of waiting in line. It was madness. The only reason we got to see as many games as we did in those first couple of days was because, as media, we'd been able to set up appointments with publishers, something the public didn't get to do. We'd avoid the queues and get looked after by PR without the usual time constraints associated with demos on the show floor. One particular spot we visited on day 2 had free food and beer, readily available games in air-conditioned trailers, and all after we'd seen a bunch of disappointed public badges get hurriedly turned away. It legitimately made me feel bad we were getting this hugely preferential treatment precisely because we didn't pay to be there. And we spent a lot of time there because it meant we didn't have to squeeze through those aimless crowds at the convention hall. It's clear that the problem wasn't just that the public was there, it was that nothing was done to accommodate them. I got a chance to talk to some of the public in line that day, and honestly the prevailing attitude was one of cautious optimism. I mean, it's important to remember that at the end of the day, there's a reason people bought those tickets. E3 still holds a great sense of prestige to a lot of people. The idea that they'd be able to get into this once secret club to actually be in the place where all the reveals are coming out. Hell, they even got to play the new Mario before most other people. That holds real value to some. Would I say that their optimism is misplaced? Probably. It's hard to tell whether it was genuine or merely an attempt to justify an expensive purchase. Would I say that they deserve better for the price tag? Absolutely, and the ESA's reticence to recognise their approach as causing any kind of problem will sink the show in years to come. And it's not like the ESA is going to drastically change their approach here. They made buck off the public this year, so the public will always be at E3. If the media abandons the show, so be it. It might lose a little of the prestige that made people buy a ticket in the first place, but hey, that's just maybe where the show is headed. Would I go next year? Sure, despite it being difficult at times, it was as chaotic an experience as I kind of wanted it to be. But I also don't have to pay for a ticket. If it remains as bad a fan convention as it was this year, however, then people will just continue to go to PAX like they always have done, meaning E3 will have lost not only the original purpose of the show, but also its one potential lifeline, and that is something you cannot bounce back from.
They didn't release many games in June, probably because games companies think people would rather be out in the summer sun. But since 1, I live in Scotland, and 2, I'm a goth, I wasn't really compelled by that argument. Thankfully, June gave us the fantastic Tekken 7, which on its own is an excellent fighting game, but you can also make everyone wear Bullet Club t-shirts, so that alone is probably worth the price of admission. June also marked the return of everyone's favourite vermin, Crash Bandicoot. Look, it's been a bad enough year already, I really didn't need this. I really didn't need him coming back. I don't have the energy to tell you just how much I hate this wee prick, so I'm just going to call him a cunt and be finished with it. Cunt Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot. The entire games industry seemingly on a lad's holiday. Little happened in July. Nintendo decided to trick you rubes again and announced the SNES Classic, causing the same pre-order nightmare culture that you'll complain about online, then open a different tab and refresh Amazon for an hour. An interesting note about the SNES Classic was that it would mark the first ever official release of Star Fox 2, making that game a 2017 release. Hopefully when Sony smells the cash and releases a PS1 Classic, they include the Lara Croft nude mod, which my pal in school told me was real, and why would he lie? Like my best mate, he shares sweets with me all the time, so it was definitely there. His dad showed him how to do it. And while it didn't release in July, a certain other game was quickly rising up the Steam charts, taking the world by storm. It was the sound of the summer. Anyone for chicken? Yes, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, or PUBG, the megalithic survival shooter developed by Brendan Green, an Irish modder with a penchant for hardcore military sims. The premise of PUBG is that 100 players parachute onto an island, find loot and try to kill the other players in a constantly constricting play area. Battle Royale? No, I don't watch the wrestling, mate. Gamers love attrition, and that was the name of the game in PUBG. One false step, one misfire, and your progress and your head would be gone. The games were short enough that as soon as you finished you wanted another one, and if you were good, long enough that the sweet poultry felt so close that you were sure you were going to get it on the next time. Now, I really like PUBG, I've played it a lot this year, but being in early access, the game is chock full of bugs. Folk falling through the world, buildings not loading in, and at the time a lack of a vaulting system, meaning that plenty of time was spent getting intimate with chest high walls. The game wasn't technically out, but you could pay for it, and millions did, including myself, so it made me think, what's the point of an actual release date anymore? Games are changing all the time, and how many times now do you ever release a game that is the same 6 months later. Think of what use a Destiny 1 disc is now. It wasn't worth much when it originally came out, but now that game, with all its original problems and dinklages, is just lost. Just wait until history digitally writes over something that you cared about and you'll wonder why we weren't thinking about it before. Back on the island, companies were tripping all over themselves to get a slice of the PUBG action. Money printing press GTA Online stuck its oar in with an admirable attempt, and you just know that E3 2018 will be punctuated with every game ever announcing their own Battle Royale style mode. 100 cars drop onto a motorway, 100 Spider-Mans drop onto a stage, 100 sad robots drop into Ennui. And in August, PUBG officially became Steam's biggest game, passing Dota 2, which had been the frontrunner previously. With the biggest game in the world set to launch on mobile and Xbox One later in the year, it was hard to see how it was ever going to be stopped. Speaking of the Xbox One, Microsoft delayed Crackdown 3 following the admission that they had made the mistake of announcing some exclusives a little bit too early, which is code for it looked quite shit and the first one was a mistake by accident, people only bought it because they had the beta for Halo 3, oh god, oh god, oh god. Finally, the summer drought was coming to an end and actual video games decided to release again, including the My First XCOM, Mario Cross Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, a title with a distinct honour of being the most interesting game with the least interesting name of all time. Neckbeards across the world stood at full mast with the first good Sonic game released in 2 decades in the form of Sonic Mania. Turns out the only thing you had to do to make a half decent Sonic game was to take it away from Sonic Team, who more and more seem like a team formed with the sole purpose of euthanizing the blue wee shit. Something it would take them only 90 days to prove with the release of Sonic Forces. Likers of Mud and South African accents were treated to Uncharted Lost Legacy, a spin-off come sequel to Uncharted 4. Lost Legacy was good, but I hope this is it with Uncharted for a while. What would they even do next? Uncarted? Sully and Cutter have to find the lost tankard of Dyer to open a gastropub? 100 blue aliens fall onto an island? Speaking of. In September, Epic took one look at the success of PUBG and thought, we could just copy it. Yes, because in a change of gameplay so drastic it would give you motion sickness, the previously largely uninteresting home improvement em up Fortnite added a Battle Royale mode. Even the press release announcing the game mode made sure they name dropped PUBG. Something that in their mind probably came across as a good faith acknowledgement of just how much they'd copied PUBG's homework, but in reality sent both sides into a back and forth feud that would last for the rest of the year. Cleverly, although Fortnite itself isn't free, the Battle Royale mode is, so anyone could jump in. It was also on PS4, something PUBG isn't looking likely to do anytime soon. But PUBG was still trucking along. It was quickly becoming the biggest thing in the world. It was the biggest game on Steam, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Vine, Friendster, Bumble, Tinder, VidMe, Beam, Vine 2, the Commodore 64. Whatever games were talked about, PUBG was there. Entire channels pivoted to become PUBG channels. The PUBG versus Fortnite wars raged on. Everything was going great. Smash cut 2.
What a fucking jeez, oh my god, what the fuck? Sorry, but what the fuck?
Funny-haired unfunny man and YouTube's most subscribed twat in the world, Felix PewDiePie Klerberg, used a racial slur while streaming the game to thousands. This heated gamer moment came mere months after some hilarious anti-Semitic antics that caused advertisers across the platform to shit themselves, and collectively bro-fest creators right up the monetization hole. Well in, mate. Before you knew it, all forms of tragic pond life were out on Twitter defending him. Never one to miss a good opportunity to trend, Felix even engaged in one of YouTube's biggest fashion statements this year, an apology video.
Because it seems like I've learned nothing from all these past controversies. And it's not that I think I can say or do whatever I want and get away with it. That's not it at all. I'm just an idiot. But that doesn't make what I said or how I said it okay. It was not okay.
But still, people in his comments worshipped him, saying things like "you're a legend" and "don't blame you." But it begs the question, what does it take for these people to turn on their idols? A few years ago on YouTube there was a big sex abuse scandal that actually took the scalps of a couple of deserving nonces. But if that happened these days, I mean, if the channel was big enough, nobody would care and they wouldn't even get taken out of YouTube Rewind. In actual game news, Destiny 1 finally released in the form of Destiny 2, a run and gun bundle of fun which will surely produce enough vitriolic complaining to power the sun for the rest of its natural life. September also saw the discovery of a hidden copy of Golf for the NES and the Switch firmware. Speculation arose that the game was a way of testing the Joy-Cons or perhaps a preview of the long discussed Virtual Console, but what it actually was, no one saw coming. In a tribute to one of the greatest minds in the industry, Satoru Iwata, it was discovered that upon performing his signature hand gesture on the date of his untimely passing, the game would unlock. The man left a stunning legacy in the industry and stuck with Nintendo through thick and thin, even taking a pay cut personally so as not to take any money from his employees during the darkest days of the Wii U. It's extremely sad that he couldn't be here to see Nintendo rise once more to great success, but thanks to this and his contribution to literally hundreds of games, he'll live on.
On my business card, I am a corporate president. In my mind, I am a game developer. But in my heart, I am a gamer.
Love letter to Walt Disney and Max Fleischer. Cuphead released. If there was ever an opportune time to release a game with tributes to racist cartoons of the past, it would be 2017. Thankfully, the only strife in Cuphead comes from the absolute shit it'll kick out of you at every turn. FIFA 18 released. I've not got a lot to say about it, but it's my video and it's one of the few days of the year that I actually feel some joy, so it's going in. That's probably the only time EA will get mentioned. Actually.
A day later, the game industry continues to buzz about yesterday's strange and sad news out of EA.
In October, EA shut down Visceral Studios. Makers of the beloved Dead Space 1 and 2 and the tolerated in the way that you would tolerate someone directly responsible for your doom, Dead Space 3. Visceral had been working on a brand new Star Wars game directed by Uncharted veteran Amy Hennig. While all that was ever shown of the game was hardly the length of a sneeze, excitement had built for some time, especially in the wake of the less than stellar releases since EA got hold of the quintillion credit license. The game wasn't technically cancelled, it was pivoted or rebooted into something a bit more like Destiny, which anyone can see is a way for EA to make more money out of dedicated fans. That's probably the last mention of EA they're gonna get. Can't be bothered. Not helping EA's plunge to the bottom of the sea in the opinion of gamers was the beta for Star Wars Battlefront 2, which while not featuring microtransactions had all the hallmarks of exactly how it was going to go. It's like being shown around the scene of your future mugging by the person that was going to rob you. Nazis, and in a shock to no one, some delicate flowers online found the fact that you'd spend most of Wolfenstein the New Colossus killing Nazis a bit irksome. Yes, because in a sentence that I can't believe I'm actually saying out loud, many internet opinion havers decided that Bethesda's entirely sensible approach to focus the marketing campaign on just how shite the Nazis were was left-wing and liberal. Is that what it's come to now? Saying that Nazis are shite is liberal and left-wing? Are these the same people that fetishise the way things used to be and winning the war and killing all the Nazis? Sound. No, you got on with it, mate. You just keep making memes about people you disagree with for no reason and dream of the day you'll finally speak to a real human being. Good on Bethesda, anything to wind these pricks up. I particularly enjoyed the dig at One Man ISIS recruitment video and mega virgin Richard Spencer. Speaking of war crimes, while we're here I'm pretty sure I'd be in breach of contract if I didn't at least mention WWE 2K18. A game that on the outside might seem like a poorly running, hard to control, frustrating mess, but on the inside is actually a bug-ridden, boring, broken, unfulfilling, depressing, vexing exploration into just how poor a game 2K is willing to release with the world's best license. Mainstream wrestling games are stuck in a mire that they'll never escape from. They make too much money and they're required to release a game every year to keep a hold of the rights. There are animations in the game this year that are older than a large section of the audience. If you're looking for a game that won't make you question your sanity and why you like this sport, try Fire Pro Wrestling on Steam Early Access, or try not watching wrestling. It's too late for me, but you can save yourself. October also saw the release of Brendan Fraser's Assassin's Creed Origins, the aforementioned Nazi meat grinder Wolfenstein 2, the Kingsman 2 video game Shadow of War, the very pretty but about as lifeless as I wish I was Forza 7, and the game of the year Super Mario Odyssey. In a year that's been nothing but unending sadness and disappointment, where the true horrors of the world are not only public, but have a full firm of supporters ready to defend them simply because they're so insecure that they have to find solace with other no-lifers like them, Super Mario Odyssey is a light in the darkness. It's a constant reassurance. It's reliving a fond memory, it's hearing your favourite song for the first time in ages, it's hanging about with your childhood pals, it's Scotland winning a World Cup, it's CM Punk wrestling again, it's a hymn reunion tour. Sure, other games have done more revolutionary things this year, but no game has made me as happy, and in 2017 that is the highest praise I could give it. November arrived and we were all just trying to get past the finish line. Most of the big games were out, the industry was winding down for the year, a few quiet releases were all that November was supposed to throw up. I've got a bad feeling about this. In a backlash that can only be described as a tsunami of fuck, Star Wars Battlefront 2 launched to the type of derision usually reserved for paedophiles that like the Phantom Menace. You see, in their infinite greed, EA had locked several heroes in multiplayer behind a labyrinthine credit system that meant in order to play as Darth Vader in a Star Wars game, you had to grind for more time than your mod did in the 80s. Due to the game being playable on EA Access several days before wide release, the mood in the Battlefront community was comparable to a hostage situation during a wake. People were furious, and EA's pathetic attempts to curtail the incoming wrath were met with mobilised anger not seen since, well, last week. EA getting the most downvoted comment in history is funny, but it really highlights the priorities of people on that site and on the internet in general. I've seen some of the most racist stuff in my entire life on Reddit, and it gets met with a tut and mild derision. But if you want to take money for Star Wars, well, I never. After a few days of screaming and some alleged words from the House of Mouse, EA did the first in a series of U-turns. EA apparently failing to realise that if you do more than one U-turn you just end up doing a 360, brother. They slashed the price of all the heroes while at the same time slashing the amount of coins you earned for completing the single player, which was charitable of them. However, in the midst of all the shouting, what most had failed to realise that the controversy surrounding the chest infection in a metal suit was nothing compared to the broken, boring and backwards multiplayer star card system. A system with all the finesse and balance of your ma. What is wrong with her, by the way? The news cycle had picked up the story and ran with it, even leading to mainstream press accusing Disney of selling gambling to kids. That was very much the final straw. Then, the Death Star exploded. In a move that can only be described as Xbox One-ian, EA removed microtransactions temporarily from the game. While solving the issue people were screaming about the loudest, they were allowing a game that at its core is fun and beautiful looking to die on the vine, with people already running around with the highest level gear. I'd actually pre-ordered it because I really liked the first one and I had an intention of reviewing it, so I wanted to get it as soon as possible. That went well. EA have had a bit of a mare this year. Between the bungling of Battlefront, the Mass Effect situation, an uprising in the FIFA community, shutting down Visceral Studios and buying Respawn, no wonder they were the most hated company in America 2 years in a row. It doesn't help that they bought Respawn, makers of the excellent Titanfall 2. Although I imagine they mostly did this so Andrew Wilson can find out how they made a robot seem human. The FIFA community split their time between being on suicide watch and rallying behind the hashtag FixFIFA, a movement designed to force Company of the People EA to change key elements of their most profitable football-themed slot machine, Ultimate Team. The Star Wars backlash certainly emboldened the community, but since then little material changes happened. See, I was smart, I sold my Ultimate Team to a Saudi investor. And even bought Neymar for me, in a way that isn't shady or illegal at all. See, this show isn't just for the nerds. Wee football joke in there for you. Compounding this is an industry-wide scandal about the thing we all love to rant about, loot boxes.
Belgium's Gaming Authority is investigating whether or not loot boxes like those found in Overwatch and Battlefront 2 should be classified as gambling.
Loot boxes are nothing new in games, but 2017 saw a proliferation of them that seems to have finally made it evident to most what some already knew, that they are, for the most part, an exploration into pseudo-gambling Skinner boxes designed to prey on the vulnerable, and the generation of kids that grew up watching their idols online opened thousands of them in hopes that they would get that rare item. Star Wars was certainly the figurehead of the hate, but I honestly think Middle-earth Shadow of War was the truest perversion of the entire system. You take Shadow of Mordor, which is an incredible game that, while plenty of its parts were formulaic, the Nemesis system and emergent gameplay meant that the sum of its parts was the best game of the year. It was the easiest thing in the world to iterate on and improve, and even in Shadow of War, there are moments where you can see that the team clearly had ideas in this direction. The whole thing is sullied by a structure designed to get you to buy orcs, spend money on the random orc chest. You even meet the microtransactions character as part of the main quest. He's not just tucked away in some disgusting, shameful menu. I mean, look at this prick, he's the kind of guy you'd cross the street to avoid in case you got a bit of them on you. And here we are, thanks to the greed of publishers that didn't know when to quit, an industry that has been self-regulated for 25 years has the threat of the government looming over it. And I don't know about you, but if there was ever an era of government that I didn't want involved in my games, probably this one. Like a dyslexic white supremacist, November was all about the 4K. With the launch of Microsoft's "Oh God, this better work" Xbox One X. It's an impressive console capable of visuals never seen before, unless you have a PC, though crucially, unlike Sony, Microsoft made the Xbox One X slightly worth the money. The box is a slim redesign of the comically large Xbox One, although it still does feel like if you dropped it, it would just keep going until it hit the Earth's crust. Lest we forget them up, Call of Duty World War II came out, which marked the return to World War II, which is exciting, if your idea of exciting is a fan remake of Band of Brothers seen through a fog of Bovril. December arrived. Nearly there, folks, keep the heat. The month mostly kicked off with both Battlefront 2 and Destiny 2 continuing their race to destroy any last remaining spirit of their community. Thankfully, smiley-faced man of the people and Hideo Kojima's husband Jeff Keighley's 500th annual Game Awards kicked off in impressive fashion with Mr. Sinister Gates playing music from Persona 5 on stage in celebratory scenes. The Game Awards are a weird beast because although Keighley clearly cares a lot about the medium and puts tons of effort in, the show mostly consists of announcements for upcoming games, pushing a lot of awards off stage. You don't see the head of NBC stand up at the Emmys and announce the big new show. That's probably because the big new show had Louis C.K. and Kevin Spacey attached to star, but still, you get my point. Although special mention must go to the wonderful tribute and award given to Carol Shaw, a genuine legend in the industry that designed games like Super Breakout and River Raid. Those are the type of people I'd like to see thrust into the spotlight of these events, people that make a difference, not a twat in a wig. Dr. Disrespect? Women, am I right, lads? Oh, probably not. For every Carol Shaw there is Joseph Fares, the kind-hearted soul behind Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. In this memorable outburst, Mr. Fares subtly conveys his lack of respect for the Academy Awards.
Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you! This is bullshit!
This comedy mascot is good, but I do miss Chic Hydrobot. No Jeff Keighley Power Hour would be complete without a visit from the Chris Morris of video games, Hideo Kojima, showing off his new life-size Norman Reedus android, and a trailer for the confusing festival of infant throat infections, Death Stranding. A mystery wrapped in an enigma disguised as Hideo Kojima stealing money from PlayStation. December's biggest release was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, the game that everyone's been playing for 6 months, but this time Xbox One players could play it in stunning 20 frames per second, including all new features such as melted Lego brick environment. You thought the textures in the PC were low res? They're now no res! Problem solved! And that's pretty much it for 2017. Since the bomb never dropped, there's not much else to talk about, although the way the world's going it can't be long. Kim, if you're going to do it, wait until Pokemon Switch is out. For me. A year which has juxtaposed unending horror in the real world with unending joy in the virtual one, where games can be daddy dating simulators or massive blockbusters designed to shake the coins from your pockets. From walks in the digital woods to nights in the town, there was a game for everyone in 2017. A wise man once said that there's never been a better time to play video games, and while some of the industry's more shady practice means that the horizon isn't completely clear, it's still a horizon worth going towards. Until next time, I'm Jordan Midler. See you later.